All right, so we're here with another episode of Done Deal. I'm Oren Klaff, and I'm here with Jay Samit, who is at the formation of music and digital media since early in your career. You've raised hundreds of millions of dollars. You're currently the CEO of a public company. You can tell us a little bit about that. Let's talk about some of your ideas and the book.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So I've been very lucky and fortunate to have been a serial entrepreneur that has disrupted some of the biggest corporations, gone head to head with Apple and Google and Microsoft, and partnered with them or competed with them, and helped dozens of startups raise hundreds of millions of dollars over the years. And what I realized is everybody follows the same path. And the path is you first have to figure out how to disrupt your assumptions about yourself. And then once you take those blinders off and realize that there are no limitations, you can then tackle business the same way. And one of the things that most people don't focus on that the book does is it's not just about finding the business you want to go into, because anybody can disrupt. Napster disrupted the music industry, but Napster made no money. So it's figuring out how to capture the value that you unlock. And when you can figure out how to capture that value, that's the competitive advantage that every entrepreneur, every investor, and every private equity firm is looking for.
So I totally agree. In the day of the internet, you can type in competitive advantage and startup and get 500 blogs, right? And you go to those blogs, and we see people send us articles all the time, and they're largely written by 24-year-olds who are thinking about these things. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today is the voice that you have and the perspective, because I don't know who to believe out there, right?
Oh.
Because everybody has an idea, and the idea seems good, but I don't want to waste my life testing some idea that some kid had that's never been used. So you've actually taken these ideas and implement them without, and I know it's not in your personality because I know you a little bit to brag, but could you brag a little bit here? So just
Sure,
so we can anchor these ideas.
So we came up with this wacky idea of doing auctions on the internet.
Yeah.
That became eBay. Work with Reid Hoffman, one of the smartest people in the world, of reimagining what your professional career is like. And it's not about finding a job, it's about being in a community, and that's what LinkedIn became as a billion-dollar business. I was tapped by the President of the United States, could we get the internet into the nation's schools? Could we do this without $1 of taxpayer money? 18 months later, every classroom in the country was wired. Been called on by the Pope. They were feeling they were losing a generation to computers. How do you bring that in? So we live in an era of endless innovation, and whether by choice or by circumstance, your career, your company will be disrupted. So you have two ways to look at life. Here's all these obstacles, here's all these challenges, here's all these problems, oh, woe is me. Or, here's all these obstacles, here's all these challenges, here's all this opportunity. Change is nothing but opportunity in disguise. And for the right entrepreneur, for the right salesperson, for the right business person, that's the best time to be in business.
So I completely agree. Question for you. Is change and disruption and Phoenix rising out of the fire, is that in your DNA, or is it that you're in Los Angeles in the technology business, and that is sort of the intersection of the two most changing businesses, right? So if Jay Samit was in the furniture business,
okay,
right, in Ohio,
got it.
Is this in your blood, or is this based on the nature or nurture for you?
So for me, I went to Los Angeles because it was a point of change. I didn't go to school there, didn't grow up there, or any of that. But this change is happening everywhere. I mean, when you take it above the business level, the whole Arab Spring, overthrowing dictators without any blood loss, which is what happened in several countries we don't tend to focus on, was all about tapping into technology. So whether you're rethinking a furniture company, a restaurant, any business, what's the first thing you pick up in the morning? What's the last thing you put down? Your mobile device.
Yeah.
You're now one click away from 6 billion consumers. You only have to be right for one day to be a billionaire. And so the self-made billionaire in their 20s isn't the exception. It's happening every month now. So it's how you look at it. And is it in my DNA? Yes, I was wired that way. But what I wrote about in the book and what I learned from talking to some foremost researchers out there is you can actually rewire your physiology to think this way. We're not hardwired to think one way or another.
Okay. So lots of questions spring off of that, because we, in my own business, we meet lots of entrepreneurs, and I think this is what happens in my experience. I have entrepreneurial DNA, or I'm an executive at a company, and things become relatively stable in my life. I have a job as a computer programmer. I have a job. We have guys who are CFOs of public companies. I make $2.5 million a year. I make $50,000 a year. I make but whatever it is, people become stable and they go, the entrepreneurial instinct kicks in and they want to bring something to life. So they do it, whatever it is. They get in their passion and it becomes Dropbox, or they take, we have guys, new kinds of vodka, new food categories. We have a guy who invented night food, which is a snack food right before you go to bed. You know, good news, smart. So what happens then, they take it out and with relative inexperience, they get in the world and this is going somewhere, they get all jammed up, right? So now they've got a few contracts. They've got a product that's, the packaging might not be perfect. They've got some contracts, it's going a little bit. They have a little bit of revenue, but now they have expenses and they're staying up 12 hours a day, working through the weekend. And it just starts to feel like they did that. They disrupted themselves. You know, they took that step and now they're sort of in execution mode and they're stuck. And one of the great, I'm not sure what page is on, but the examples you gave here was Beats. Yeah. To be fair, Beats was started by guys who had a lot of resources, but in addition, they...
Actually not.
Okay, fair. Tell us the story.
It was started by regular guys. So music industry got completely disrupted. The idea of buying a round thing, you know, and you had to buy all the songs. Take out piracy, take out technology for a second. The second you could just buy the one song, you went from spending $16 to $1. No industry could survive losing 80% of the revenue.
Right.
So if you were a marketing guy at a record label, when you lost your job, you didn't just lose your job from EMI or Sony. You lost your job and everybody else lost their job. There's no place to go.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at your skill set and say, woe is me, I only know how to sell music. I'm out of a job.
Right.
But if you disrupt and deconstruct what we talk about of what your personal value chain is, you realize that you have something that nobody else in marketing had. The CMO of Coke, Joe Tripodi, was a brilliant guy. He's selling a brand that's been around for 100 years. He just has to spend a few $1 billion and keep the word out. When you're selling a startup band, when you're at a record label, you have to take 3 kids in a garage that nobody's heard of, and 10 days later, on Tuesday, when the record drops, everybody has to know about them.
Yeah.
That's a special skill. So he said, what's something that I could take? What's something that's undifferentiated? And then they took an accessory, headphones.
Yeah.
Not even technically better headphones, not even quality headphones.
We can beep that out.
No, I'll say it. They've already sold it, and they cashed out. So what they did is they used the same type of street guerrilla techniques that had worked for them in the past. And there was that one moment at the London Olympics. They weren't a sponsor. They didn't have that kind of money. And however it happened and wherever envelopes of cash may have gone, every swimmer around the pool, when the camera went on there, were wearing Beats headphones, regardless of the country. And the whole world noticed. And now you make $600 million and you sell your company for billions. And now you've changed Apple. So why didn't Apple create quality headphones on their own? This shows you the power that one entrepreneur with an idea was able to achieve.
So there's, great, and this example's in the book, and I love it, and it's one that I remember clearly and focus in. I want to talk about it a little bit more because for me, I hear that when I read the example, I ran off and I said, okay, I need to figure out how to get, you know, whatever it is I have in the hands of athletes, right? But that's not really that's not the exercise. The exercise, what I'm hearing from you, is to think about what am I great at,
right?
That has been, you know, disrupted or commoditized or disintermediated or whatever MBA doublespeak, you know, word means. It's no longer that important. And what can I apply that to that is a green field? So can you walk us more through how sort of me as an average guy can apply that exercise?
So I'll give you a great example. In one of the few times I was an entrepreneur brought in to change a large corporation, I was brought into Sony because Sony was late to the digital era. iTunes is out there, Apple and the iPod were everywhere, and Sony had the Walkman for 20 years head start.
Yeah.
14,000 retailers sold Walkman in the US.
Yeah.
Apple was nowhere and Apple won. So they wake up and they have to do this. And to make a long story short, as big as Sony was, I realized we can't take on Apple. They're not going to give me the budget and, you know, to spend the ad dollars that they are, because they don't know if we're going to do it. So I'm looking through the newspaper and I'm trying to say to myself, who's in trouble that I can solve for them? So the first thing you got to learn is don't solve for yourself, solve for somebody else. And the 2 examples that I came up with that were in the newspaper right now is there was a feature film out called Super Size Me that you'll remember.
Yep.
Matthew Spurlock went on 30 days of eating nothing but Big Macs and nearly died. McDonald's same store sales were down. And United Airlines was in bankruptcy, our number one giant airline. What does that have to do with me selling digital download music? Nothing. But they both have problems and they need an answer. And what you'll find is in most companies, they don't have a lot of creative thinking and answers. So if I could solve those two problems for them, maybe it could help me. Long story short, talk McDonald's into doing get a free download with every Big Mac. Buy a Big Mac, get a track. McDonald's spent $60 million of their dollars doing TV commercials, driving all their customers to my little website. United had all these people not flying with enough frequent flyer miles to do 8 round-trip flights to Pluto. Okay? Use your frequent flyer miles, and now you can buy music. So now every flight is going to talk about that. And so you put those together, and suddenly you have partners spending tens of millions of dollars on a little startup where my budget, I had no money. I didn't even have $500,000 to spend. First week, 20 million customers.
So I hear these examples, and I get a little bit excited and a little bit depressed. Right?
Okay.
Because I'm worried that this is a genius of Jay.
No.
And the idiocy of Oren have met at a center point, and I can't cross over to the genius
Here's how
of
to
Jay.
get you there.
Yeah,
here's how to get you there.
Yes.
Every product, every business, the furniture guy in Ohio is selling to a certain demographic, a certain audience.
Let's use that use case. I think
Okay.
that's so we can get around something concrete.
I've come up with a new rocking chair for new moms. It does a special rhythm that makes the baby sleep better. Okay, that's the thing. I'm making a rocking chair. I don't know anybody. I'm in Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't afford to reach out to every mom in the country. I can't get this message out. But I can figure out who does want to reach all those moms, who does want to make those moms happy, who wants to solve for them. Maybe it's a formula company, maybe it's a Pampers, maybe it's a baby food company, maybe it's some clothing company in that now they can show that they care about mothers by educating and sharing this knowledge with those mothers. It's non-competitive. It makes them look smart, hip, and cool. And suddenly, they'll bring you around. When I started my first company, I was just a kid with a computer, okay? I didn't know anything, and the key of being an entrepreneur is just get out there. Don't figure that you know every step of the journey. Know the destination, know where you are, and you can work your way back and fill it in. And very early on, I realized that some of the biggest companies were announcing these new amazing things with no idea of who would use them or why. So if I raise my hand and say, I have an idea for it, then all of a sudden, we'll put you in our trade show booths everywhere and we'll pick up the cost. We'll fly you around to everybody because we spent hundreds of millions of dollars making this thing and we don't know what to do with it. And you wake up and suddenly you're taking credit for all this research. Give you another tip that happens to be in Disrupt You. Most scientists at universities do not know what they're doing. Let that sink in for a second. I'm not putting down scientists, okay? I'm saying the purpose of science is science, to discover something. They're not working on how do I make a better razor blade? How do I make a better rocking chair? They're going, I figured out this thing. And then it sits there. And there are thousands of patents just sitting there, and you can just knock on the door and say, can I use this? And if I do it, I get half the money, you get half the money, or whatever you negotiate.
So when you say knock on the door, you go to the university's technology commercialization office.
Or they have websites nowadays. NASA puts up a website. There's over 1,000 patents that you can use for free that NASA put up. And a number of companies and entrepreneurs that I got to meet with when I was writing the book literally went on there and said, oh, this is a cool one. Went up to Sand Hill Road in Silicon Valley to where all the VCs are and said, I have this patent, because they do, they have the patent, and suddenly they got millions of dollars to go run with it.
Yeah. We used our Mid-Ohio furniture company as an example. I don't think we need many examples from Silicon Valley or Los Angeles, because those are widely publicized in Wired magazine and Inc. magazine and Fortune magazine and Success. But let's go.
Let me give you a restaurant example.
Yeah, restaurant example. Terrific.
Very common. So one of the most common businesses people start, 90% fail within the first 2 years. So you go, wow, you should never open a restaurant. No. What you shouldn't do is say, I have a great recipe for food that's going to make a restaurant. You have to do the same thing and disrupt what is the thing of a restaurant. So there was a guy who was looking at restaurants and didn't want restaurants to fail. And he sat there, and it was on the East Coast, so it's not a California story. He said, first of all, number one problem is you have a table for 4 people and 2 sit down. At your busiest time, you can't monetize those 2 seats.
Right.
So he's only going to seat full tables, which means you're going to have to sit with strangers. Okay, number one. It also means that while you're waiting to get enough people to fill a table, you're going to spend time at the bar, which means your bar tab goes up, so you're going to make more. Second problem is if you have 19 things on the menu and they order 16 of them, you made profits on the 16, but you threw out the food on the other thing. and you have too many. He's only going to have 3 things on the menu. Now you're saying to yourself, this is insane. I'm going to sit with strangers.
Yeah.
I'm going to eat only 3 choices in this restaurant. It's called Benihana's. So it wasn't that he wanted to make a Japanese restaurant.
Right.
He deconstructed where do restaurants fail and then figured it out. Okay? And he can do the same thing about picking your location, of what your product is, your price points, everything. In every business, a simple example that everybody can relate to is that diamond engagement ring. We've all been there, we've all spent a ton of money for what is actually not a scarce and a very useless rock, okay? But 100 years ago, somebody came up with the slogan, diamonds are forever, and all engagement rings went to, thanks to De Beers, to diamonds instead of anything else.
Yeah.
But the value in diamonds isn't in owning a diamond mine and all that. It's in that marketing and having a monopoly. They literally control the market. But imagine if you made a synthetic diamond in a lab and you could do it cheaper, that whole world just disappears. So you can change anything by figuring out that one slice of where the value is created. It could be in the packaging, it could be in the distribution, it could be in the design. It's not just about price and positioning.
So I 100% agree, and my mind is spinning even now on things we can do in our own business, but I have questions to get to you. So I read the book, I read the foreword, is by Reid Hoffman, right? And I look up Jay on Wikipedia, and I see all the people that you know and the things that you've done, and I go, this stuff makes a lot of sense to me, but when Jay wants something done, he calls up the founder of LinkedIn and he says, hey Reid, can you wire me $50 million? I want to start a startup. And then I call the current president of Sony and I tell him to market it. And then I call the little green men on the moon and I tell them to dim the light on the earth because I'm launching a fireworks display. And then I call the president of the United States and I say, please stand down Air Force One on my flight path because I have fireworks going off. Does anybody else need instructions from me? Because I'm Jay and I'm making it happen today. I don't have those calls to make. What do I do?
Actually, you do, because I was no different.
All right.
Dad was a public school teacher. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Grew up in a row house. Lower middle class. I didn't know, in Philadelphia. But you don't have to take no for an answer. And if you can come up with that big idea, it will attract other people, and it'll continue. So one of my favorite stories that puts this out. I was a guy with a little software company with 20 people when I got a call from the President of the United States. And I literally thought it was somebody doing a Bill Clinton, impersonation. And make a long story short, we transformed how education happens in this country. I felt very empowered when the most powerful man in the world asked you to do something. You say yes. But at the culmination of wiring the schools, the president and vice president came out and we're pulling the Cat5 wires before there was Wi-Fi, and the White House photographer takes a picture and everything. And a couple weeks later, you get that framed picture signed by the president, and it's me, the president, and this other guy. So I'm like totally bummed. This would be like my memento for working so hard for 2 years and achieving something. Who's this guy? Right? How did he get in my photo?
And how do we Photoshop him out, this bastard? Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking, do I cut it? But it cuts the signature. So I have it on the wall of my office for years. And 5 years go by, and somebody's sitting in my office and go, oh, you know everybody. You're friends with Eric Schmidt? So Eric Schmidt, who later became the chairman of Google, was out of work. He got involved to try to network and meet people. So the point of the story is everybody starts from exactly where you are. If I give one piece of advice that annoys entrepreneurs, the best time to start their business was a year ago. The second best time is now. You can't go backwards.
No, and I totally agree with that. I mean, the whole business that I have today, if you're familiar with it, is I was a capital raiser in 2008, and the market's completely shut down. All I was able to do is raise capital, and there was no capital moving anywhere. Right. It's like being in the NFL, being a center, one of these 425-pound guys. Your only job is to go like this, and hike the ball 18 inches. It's all, and then stand up. It's the only thing you can do. You can't flip burgers, you can't sell insurance, you can't go to the moon, you can't write computer software. That's the only thing you can do is hike the ball, and that was me. And I did the same thing. I said, what is the one thing? I know how to make these pitch decks that people love. And I just took my whole business and went and focused on making the world's, because the only thing that I was skilled at the time.
Put a disruptor's thing on what you actually did.
Okay, great.
What you did is you looked at yourself first, which is what the first third of the book about. And you said, what is that skill set that I have? Even if it's not needed. And your skill set was, I make these really good decks, but we're not out raising any money.
Right.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Woe is me, I have a problem.
Yeah.
Wait, the reason I was doing that is because I'm good at it, because a lot of people need this. So I've discovered a problem everybody else has. That's the basis for all business, is solving problems for others. If you can figure out, and I'll give everybody that's watching this the best way to have the same deal flow as the biggest venture capitalists in the world. All you have to do is this. Take a pad of paper, and every day for this month, for 1 month, write down 3 things that bother you, 3
I love
problems.
this. Yeah.
Okay?
This is terrific.
So on the first day, this morning there was traffic, there's this or that. By the end of a month, you're really paying attention to your world.
You're defining problems better.
Problems.
Too. Yeah.
And you hope you have a messed up life, because the more problems, the more opportunity. So now you have 90 ideas at the end of the month, and you go through these. So 2 kids that didn't know anybody, that weren't in even the US, in Tel Aviv, are complaining about Tel Aviv traffic, okay? There's less cars in all of Israel than probably in Orange County where we're shooting this, and they're complaining about the traffic. And they realize that everybody's smartphone knows where it is, so if you could have all the phones talk to each other, tell this car go left, this will go right, this go center, and solve traffic. And they're doing this as far off the grid as you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
That company's called Waze, and it sells for billions of dollars without any revenue. This is the potential of living in a completely networked world. The great idea can come from anywhere. And so what you have to do to find that great idea is really look at how your life is unique and you have perspective. There was nobody else when all the capital markets that said, wait a second, I really know how to nail this pitch. I'm the best at this. Because you either have to be the best in the world at what you do or the only one doing it. And it turns out if you're the only one doing it, you're the best. Yeah. So I've constantly gone into new fields doing something that no one else did. Maybe somebody else could have done better, but since nobody else was doing it, Jay got to be the expert. And now people take the phone calls. So that's the payoff. If you want to be an overnight success, work 80 hours a week for 30 years.
Yeah. All right, so a couple things in the book I still have to get to that really struck me, and I love this when I read, because we start off every pitch with, hey, here's the big idea in 120 words. So we think about big ideas in a very similar way, but you took it a giant leap further than I ever had, which is get your big idea and then kill it.
Yeah.
So walk me through that technique, technology, method, and this is so important, sorry to cut you off, but just a little bit of background on it, where it came from, how you experienced it. This is a really killer topic, and I want to explore it fully as opposed to just hit it with a finishing hammer.
So most entrepreneurs are killed with kindness. They go to friends or family and say, oh, that's so good, that's great, way to go, da da da. That's the worst thing you can do. And people that pitch me, and I advise tons of startups, get used to my brashness, which is, your idea sucks because. And I'm not doing that to discourage them. I'm doing that the faster you can kill your idea, the faster you can find a flaw with the idea, the faster you can find where the market's going to abandon it, then you've saved all that time and money, because you are in a race to get to success before your cash runs out. That's the entire game. Every major company that you could think of that grew up during the past 30 years, the Googles and the Apples, came to that precipice moment where we're running on vapors. And if you talk to the most successful VCs, billionaire guys that love to brag, they'll always tell you that they had a board meeting where they're going to shut down whatever. You know, Google tried to sell out for $800,000 and was turned down. Okay. So you try to kill an idea, and the more you can kill it mentally, and the way to do it, and here's back to your Ohio rocking chair person. You don't want to get the opinion of furniture makers. You don't want to get opinion of furniture sellers. You want to get the opinions of moms that would use the product. So find a dozen apostles, okay? It was good enough for Jesus, good enough for you. Find a dozen apostles that will be honest, that will test the product, usually give you feedback. Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to find out that what you thought was your best product, you were the only one looking, you dove in the deep end, and in that deep end, you find that pearl. And when you find the idea that you can't kill, I call it the zombie idea, the Walking Dead, then start throwing your money at it. And I can give you endless examples. So a woman in Florida, she got a job as a salesperson. And because it was a big, I won't mention the corporation, they required that she has to wear pantyhose. Well, in Florida, for women, pantyhose, not the best idea, okay, unless you're Louis Pasteur. But more so, wearing sandals, your toes look funny because you see the little seam, something guys can't relate to. So she tried cutting off the toes and this or that.
Yeah.
Anyway, she eventually figured out a way to make it work, and she went to every maker of pantyhose in the country, and they're all guys, and they're all like, this is dumb, we don't want it, you know.
Yeah.
She didn't have any money. She literally went to Barnes & Noble and bought patents for dummies and wrote her own patent. So she couldn't afford an attorney. Name of the company is Spanx. She's a billionaire because she didn't take no.
Yeah.
But everybody told her why it was wrong, and she took that and made the product better and better, and it ended up that it wasn't about the toes and the pantyhose, it was about figuring out a way to hold in everything else.
So, I mean, I think that's terrific. And I love this, and we on behalf of entrepreneurs everywhere, we come up with this, you know, here's the big idea, because that's our job, is to communicate whatever it is better, right? You've
got to be the Pied Piper. You've
Yeah.
got to get employees to follow your dream, investors to follow your dream.
That's why you need the
market
big
people,
idea.
And you have to believe in it. But you have to also not cherish it like it's your child.
Yeah.
Your job is to kill it, because your competition, the first person you educate in business, is your competition, because they're paying attention.
This is so important. I mean, to make a distinction, but someone like, I'm a marketer, right, of financial products, companies. If you bring me, as I've said many times, a goose, and you wrap it in tinfoil, and you say, it's a satellite, I'll say, great, it's a satellite, I will market it, right? I think you draw a straight line, and you talk to Jay, right, and you're feeling high and mighty, we invented a satellite, it's tinfoil with a goose in the middle of it, and you're feeling good, and somebody's giving you $1 million, and people are telling you this is the next satellite system, you might as well go buy a mansion and a Lamborghini and a small island yourself, because this is the greatest thing since LinkedIn, Yahoo, Google. You need to find someone like Jay. Because my job, you give me $50,000, $75,000, $150,000, $1.5 million, I will go and do what you say. But Jay is different. He will tell you straight in your eye, that is not good. But if you're feeling emotionally upbeat, good about yourself, look in the mirror and you see somebody you like and handsome, come talk to Jay, he will correct you.
But it's not an attack of the person. It's
Right.
actually the best
Yes.
way you can help the person.
I agree.
Because if you do the yeah, I mean, a lot of people do that yeah, and they leave the room and go, oh, that's a waste of time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that go to raise venture capital, a venture capitalist will never tell you you have a bad idea.
Right.
You know why? Because your next one might be good and they want you to come back. So, oh yeah, I really like it, I got to take it to the partners. Sorry, I couldn't sell it to the partners. That gets them out,
Yeah.
they maintain the relationship.
Right.
You need actual customers, and actual customers will do things with your product that you don't anticipate. 10 years ago, a guy had a big idea, an obvious idea, can't miss idea, unbelievable. Online dating, computer dating was the rage.
Yeah.
And because we weren't in broadband yet, and everybody started, it was, here's a photo.
Yeah.
And that photo could be 10 years old and 50 pounds less and,
Right.
all kinds of other things. Let's do online dating and put up videos. Genius, can't miss.
Yeah.
So it was called a tune-in hookup. They put it online, and guess what? Nobody wanted to date anybody. But people thought some of the videos were kind of entertaining.
Yeah.
So they called their friends to look at it, and at about the 10-month mark, they changed the name of the company to YouTube. And they became billionaires without
Chad Hurley.
selling a single date.
All right. So,
So
what I'm
pivoting.
hearing, the takeaway, right? The
Don't be
takeaway
afraid
is
to pivot.
big idea, but then really stress test. You know, banks have to produce financial statements, and then they go to auditors, and the auditors stress test those statements and say, hey, your reserves aren't good enough. And this is, in some ways, a stress test.
And the difference between our stress test and what you have to do from your innate training in your pitch is you only get one shot to get in front of those people to make
Right.
that pitch. Right. You have to have your thing nailed perfect.
Right.
With 6 billion people attached, you can put up an A/B test, different ads, different layouts, different stuff, and constantly tweak and go, okay, I think it should be blue. I think the button should be red. We can each have our own opinion. Data never lies. Invite data to every meeting. You go up and go, wow, 1,000 people clicked through on the blue button.
Yeah.
Nobody clicked through on the red button. And you keep on tweaking this. And I've done this for Procter & Gamble. I've done this for Kraft. I've done this for tons of people. And the results that you could end up in just tweaking an ad are unbelievable. And the cost and the time is nothing because you have access to all these people in your petri dish.
So as a practical matter, because I think people watch this stuff and they want to get, sort of pragmatic things they can do in the next 10 seconds. What are the tool? What are some of the tools you would use to test a premise today? So Optimizely, or
Depending which brand and which tools
Got it.
are up to you.
Okay.
It's just very, very easy to do. But I'll give you one tip to your people that I haven't done on any other talk, and it's the following. Let's pretend there's that one person you want to get to, that one titan of industry that you don't know how to reach. I can guarantee you that for less than $5, you can get to them.
Okay.
Buy their name as a keyword. So that you're, hey, I really want to work for you.
Yeah.
And I talked about a kid that did this. He did the names of the biggest creative directors at ad agencies. And they all picked up the phone. And they all called him in. They said, this is really genius.
Yeah.
You showed that you could rise above and differentiate.
Yeah.
$5 he spent.
Yeah, great.
Doubled his salary.
Okay, I'm going to go buy it. I'm going to actually, there's some people I'm trying to reach right now. It's fairly easy for me, but I'm going to go do this today.
And people have done variants of that to me.
Yeah.
The most fun one is I got a big box one day. Everybody likes presents. So if you have a stack of mail and you're a busy guy, you're going to open the box first.
Right.
And in it was one of those spaghetti strainers filled with dates. I'm like, this is bizarre. And I read the card and said, I apologize that my assistant got it wrong. I'm trying to get a date on your calendar.
That's funny.
I laughed. I said, you made me laugh. I'll pick up the phone.
At least it wasn't, this piece of paper doesn't have anthrax on it, but one of the other ones does. Keep going. All right, a couple of things I have to get to from the book that struck my interest. You have this notion of pack your disruption suitcase.
Yeah.
Okay. And for me, that is sort of the one time that I have to think about change and making big breakthroughs and new big ideas is when I go away. And that's probably the one time I should be relaxing so I can come back and do execution. So how do I mitigate these ideas? And when I go away, maybe I should be relaxing, but on the other hand, it's the one time I have to work clear of all the to-do things.
So I use the metaphor of the disruptor suitcase because we're all in this constant routine, whatever our routine is. We're doing our life the same way. We go through the same stuff. We commute. We do da-da-da. And it's comforting. It's natural. And when you do that, if you're going to do the same thing, you're going to get the same result. So if you're really trying to change your life, and yet when you go on a vacation, you make this conscious effort of what am I bringing along that I need, right? You're going skiing, you do not bring your bicycle, okay? You do not bring all this baggage that holds you down. So if you're trying to plan out your career, you know what you want to accomplish in 5 years. You don't know how to get there, that's fine. What do you need? What are the people that are there? Go look up people that you emulate and see what their backgrounds look like on LinkedIn. And say, wow, I need an MBA, or I need to learn how to use Photoshop, or I need to learn, it could be things that take a lot of time, it could be very small things. Language. Language is the only tool you have to communicate who you are if you're looking for a job. And yet people put zero effort into understanding which words will get them hired on a resume. I listed here scientifically studied words that will get you hired. Not only that, but today, most resumes aren't read by humans. So if you don't have these words, you're not even making it through the algorithm to get hired.
So this is the resume example in the book. We don't have to do it here because it's brilliant. I mean, this book, my publisher sends me a book a day. Other publishers send me books. My mailbox is full of books, and normally they're just breeze through, get the one idea. I can tell you every book is written, right? So the publishers say, tell them what you're going to tell them. So tell them how they're going to use the book, right? Then tell them a little bit about your background. In chapter 3, give some, put some meat in between the bun. And the rest of the chapters, give some examples. And then the authors panic because they get too close to their deadline and they fill it with fluff. So you can read most whole books. Just read chapter 3, get the one idea, and you're done. It's an hour. But this book, and we don't very often recommend books because of this experience. This is a great book. I enjoyed so many things in here. We're not going to read you the book online, in this show, but this resume example is terrific. You have to read the book to get it. There's one thing that I do want to read from the book because it gave me an idea. I've spent some time with you. We've met a couple times, and I think I've got an assessment of your personality that I'd like to give you. Okay. So you have a great need for other people to like and admire you. I believe you have a tendency to be critical of yourself, and you have a great deal of unused capacity, which you have not turned to your advantage. But while you have some personality weaknesses, you're generally able to compensate for them. You're disciplined, self-controlled outside. You tend to be worrisome and insecure inside. At times, you have serious doubts when you made the right decision or done the right thing, and you prefer a certain amount of change and variety and become dissatisfied when you get hemmed in by restrictions. Do I have you Is
You
that a
nailed me.
somewhat accurate
You nailed
description
me.
of you?
That's genius.
Okay. So we call that a cold read.
Right.
Give us a little bit of
background, the
a
setup.
little bit of background on why so many people resonate with this. We don't have to read them the chapter. You know,
Right.
we have the benefit of you here and the
So-
context of your experience.
So we all have an image of who we are, and we believe it's fixed.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so a professor at UCLA passed out these psych evals to people to fill out tons of the little dots, spend an hour and a half, everything about them, and gave them each a response. And 85% of the people that have taken this test have agreed with the results now for 50 years. And there's one catch. Every single person got the same result that he just read. So if you play this file again,
Yeah.
listen to that and pretend he's describing you, and you go, oh my God, he's a psychic, he just described you. And the bottom line is, we hear what we want to hear, we discount what we want, but it shows you that there's no such thing as this grid, you know, the Myers-Briggs stuff, that you're a this or you're a that. We all have a little bit of something, and we can stress those things that make us successful, or we can hold on to those things that make us a failure. But the choice is completely yours. You can't blame, my parents raised me this way, I didn't have this opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm in awe of the people that I met on this book. There's a girl, she's in junior high school, really smart, but she's in junior high school and learned about making neural networks, and she made a little soccer game to play at home. Okay, a smart kid, proud of her, good.
Yeah.
Give her the science trophy.
Yeah.
Her aunt comes down with breast cancer.
Yeah.
She's devastated, she loves
Yeah.
this woman.
Yeah.
And unlike the rest of us, okay, I know nothing about cancer. She says, what if I could make a neural network that could detect cancer better? Make this quick story. She came up with a test with no research, no dollars, no anything, that is 99% accurate, more accurate than anything in the market in the world, and is saving about 40,000 lives a year, and she's in junior high.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
It's
There are endless
inspiring.
stories of this.
Yeah.
And the difference is, kids don't know that they have limitations, right? Until you hit puberty and somebody told you you're old, you're ugly, you're fat, you're this, you're that, all kids are just happy. If we can just remember that we live in an infinitely expanding world, and we have that ability to infinitely expand,
Yeah.
then you can achieve anything.
Yeah.
And the purpose of this book wasn't, oh, look at what Jay's done.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that all these people that were just like me have become billionaires and famous names all over, you know, that it wasn't supposed to be. None of these people went out seeking the tons of money. They came up with an idea that they believed in,
Yeah.
and then the money followed. And that's the message here. And if I could just go on my soapbox for 2 seconds.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
We're living in a time now where there'll be 2.3 billion millennials. That is more people in the millennial generation than were on this planet when my parents were born. There are not jobs for all these people. The number one thing that will destabilize a country or a world is massive unemployment for those under 30. That's what's happening with ISIS, that's what's happening in our country.
Yeah.
And unless we can teach people to embrace change, embrace the entrepreneurial spirit, and give them the tools to be successful,
Yeah.
it'll affect our lives, it'll affect everybody's. So that's why I'm traveling the world, that's why I sat down to do this,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm so grateful of you to embrace the book.
Well, this is good. Get this book. This is a terrific book. My copy is underlined. I have now 2 copies of it. One for the home, one for office. And I don't say that. Get this book. This is a solid read. There's something on every page. For people ordering it right now but want to get started, you know, and sort of capture the momentum of this conversation, so there's 2 things they should do. Get on Amazon, order the book. It'll come in a couple days, whether you have Prime or not. But then grab a notebook and a pen. The one thing you said was start noticing problems, 3 problems a day. We can start that immediately. What else can we do?
I'll make it even easier
make
for
it
them.
easier.
So for your viewers and your followers, I have made a 40-page companion workbook. And I will give it to any of them for free.
Yeah.
And
Well, give it to me for free. I'll sell it to them.
And anybody can go to jaysamit.com or
Yeah.
reach out to me on Twitter at jaysamit or find a way to reach me,
Yeah.
and I will email it to them. And my goal is to make everybody else's journey quicker and easier, because we benefit if more people are solving our problems.
Terrific. So we will do all that. And I think I'll just wrap up here with an apology to Jay and his family and his neighbors and people who care about him, because I'm kidnapping Jay following this interview. All you FBI agents, don't worry about this. I'm putting him on an island where we're going to have control of him, and feed him just enough calories to keep his mind sharp and vibrant until I myself is a billionaire, which is 3 commas is pretty close. But this is an incredible resource and a gift. So if you can get near Jay, get the book, get the companion material, and spend some time, this is breakthrough stuff. And if you want to disrupt or break through to the next level, this is the thinking that I think is required. So Jay, I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay, cool.